I am Vasil Lomachenko. You're watching Dante's Boxing Nation.
Dante's Boxing Nation, what's going on, guys? Some pretty interesting news, man. Some pretty interesting news today. We have another boxing movie that's about to be released. It's going to drop, at least the premiere is going to drop November 25th. And the movie is based on the late EDWIN VALERO. Now, this is pretty ironic because I was just using EDWIN VALERO as an example in my Floyd Mayweather video when I talked about Floyd Mayweather dissing Colin Kaepernick and Black Lives Matter, etc., etc. I used EDWIN VALERO in that video as an example. Check that video out if you guys haven't watched it. So right after I uploaded that video, I get this news that EDWIN VALERO's movie is coming out soon. Now I'm gonna tell you, the good news about this movie is an EDWIN VALERO story has all of the ingredients to potentially be one of the greatest boxing movies of all time if it's done right. Now the bad news is I don't think this is going to be an American movie because according to reports, it's a Venezuelan film premiere. So I'm assuming the movie is going to be in Spanish and there's going to be subtitles. I'm hoping that I'm wrong. But if that's the case, that really sucks because, like I said, when you think of EDWIN VALERO's story, we're talking about boxing, murder, drugs, EDWIN VALERO having a blood clot, can't pass the MRI, motorcycle accidents. I mean, it's just a whole lot of stuff, a lot of knockouts. This could be a great movie. If this movie is not an American-based movie, someone needs to remake this movie and use some American actors, even if they have to use some Latino actors from wherever. With a story like this, this movie needs to be done in America. Now, with that all being said, let's talk a little bit about EDWIN VALERO. For those of you guys who don't know his story too well, EDWIN VALERO was one of the best top-ranked boxing prospects in the business. He had broken records when it comes to his knockout streak. He had 27 knockouts in a row, knocking everyone out that he faced. And he held the record for quite some time of getting 18 first-round knockouts in a row. He held the record until Tyrone Bronson broke his record. Then he had the situation where he got into a motorcycle accident, had a blood clot in his brain, and because of that, he couldn't pass an MRI. He was signed to Golden Boy before, but he went nowhere with Golden Boy because he couldn't fight, because he couldn't pass an MRI. So as EDWIN tries to get back on track with Top Rank, then things turn for the worse. We find out that while he was a monster in the ring, it turns out EDWIN VALERO was even a bigger monster outside of the ring. Because then we find out about the many demons that EDWIN VALERO was possessed by. It turns out EDWIN VALERO was a heavy drug abuser and he was a real wife beater. When I say real wife beater, I mean this man, he beat on his wife constantly and left her in the hospital multiple times. Then of course he eventually killed her. That's right, he murdered his own wife while high on drugs. That's a hell of a story, ain't it? That is a hell of a story. I tell you right now, me personally, the two main things you'll see me watching on TV is boxing and the Investigation Discovery Channel. That's the crime channel. The real murders, the real stories, right? So when I think of this situation, that's what we have. We have boxing mixed with Investigation Discovery. We have a whole movie of it. But one thing I will say about Edwin Valero, or something else I'll say about Edwin Valero, is man, this man is so lucky that he had his Hope Insurance. I mean, Edwin Valero, he took his Hope Insurance with him to his grave. Because to this day, I said this in my Mayweather video, I said every single time you bring up Edwin Valero's name, the first thing people start talking about is how good of a fighter he was, how they miss him, and how he would have destroyed Manny Pacquiao. I mean, Edwin Valero's name for some reason is synonymous with Manny Pacquiao's. And I think it's because Edwin Valero, before he passed away, he was aggressively calling out Manny Pacquiao. But the reason why I bring this up is because this is a man who beat on his wife on a regular. And when you go to Boxing Scene right now and you read the article, they have the comments right below the article. I am not exaggerating when I say this. Do you know that there is not one single negative comment about Edwin Valero? A man that not only beat on his wife, but eventually murdered her? Now, I'm not telling you that you guys should hate him, because I don't have any hate for Edwin Valero at all. I think it's a sad story, and even I wish it never happened, and I wish Edwin Valero, he would still be here today, and I wish his family, his wife would still be here as well. I don't hate the man, but the reason why I bring this up is because of the fact that we all know that if Edwin Valero did not have his Hope Insurance, like a Floyd Mayweather, like an Andre Ward, someone like that, and he was accused of beating on his wife, we know that the decafs, they would use that as an excuse to say they hate this man. Not they don't have a lot of respect for him, not they don't agree with what he did, but they would say they hate him. We hear people say that about Floyd Mayweather all the time. The decafs, that is. We hear them say, you know, that's why I don't like him. You know, I don't like him because, you know, he beat on his wife and that's why I don't like him, etc., etc. But yet these same fans, when it comes to Edwin Valero, he has his Hope Insurance, so they only talk about how great of a fighter this man was. And when you look at the contrast, it's unbelievable. Because you have one man, Floyd Mayweather, who was accused of hitting his wife, or hitting his ex, his baby mama, whatever you want to call it. She wasn't even his wife. He's accused of hitting her, versus Edwin Valero, who openly, it's not even speculation. We have the proof, we have the records, the doctor records, and all that kind of stuff. This man, he beat on his wife on a regular and then killed her. And you mean to tell me that these decafs, they praise this man more than someone who may have slapped their girl or whatever the case may be? Listen, I'm not condoning domestic violence. But what I'm telling you guys is, let's just be a little fair here, right? Or let's try to act like we're being fair. Even if you can't be fair, let's try to at least act like we're trying to be fair, right? And listen, I don't want the message to get misconstrued when I talk about Floyd Mayweather, because I just made a video expressing to you guys I completely disagree with what Floyd Mayweather said about all lives matter, Black Lives Matter, what he said about Colin Kaepernick. But see, this conversation is not so much about Floyd Mayweather. It's about Floyd Mayweather's skin color. You see, it doesn't matter which black boxer we're talking about, because we know the perception would be the same, right? If Errol Spence, if Deontay Wilder, if any of these fighters on the coincidental list were even accused of putting hands on their girlfriend, on their wives, whoever it is, even if it was a rumor, we would hear decaf say, that's why I hate that guy. Especially if that fighter was on the top of the sport, meaning he was considered pound for pound, number one, number two, if he was receiving ridiculous praise. Because remember, the more praise you are, the more hate you receive from these type of people. So, I think once again, Edwin Valero, he was very lucky to have his Hope Insurance, because his Hope Insurance covered him very, very well. It's just amazing how whenever we hear decafs make excuses for why they don't like a fighter on the coincidental list, it seems like it always happens where the exact same thing they're accusing that fighter on the coincidental list of, all of a sudden, a fighter on the Hope list, he pops up out of nowhere and he's doing the same thing that black fighter was doing to the third power. And now you sit there and you just watch that decaf try to backpedal, backslide, and defend the guy on the Hope list, right? Like, for example, you're going to have some decafs, they're going to say right now, oh, come on, Dante, Edwin Valero, he was an action-packed fighter, etc., etc. So it doesn't matter if he killed his wife. That's why we like him, Dante. They'll say some ridiculous stuff like that. We already know what time it is. Oh, thanks for clearing that up. So now we know that it's okay to murder your wife and beat her like clockwork, as long as you are an exciting fighter. Oh yeah, that makes a lot of sense. That makes a whole lot of damn sense. So anyway, getting back to this movie, like I said, I look forward to watching this movie. I mean, I really, really wish this movie was in English. I mean, they didn't report too much of the details. Once again, all I know is the premiere will be released November 25th. This can be one of the greatest boxing movies of all time. Me, once again, I'm a boxing fan, and I practice what I preach. You don't ever hear me talking about, I hate this fighter, I hate that fighter because of what they did. One more time, I don't hate Edwin Valero at all. And I really, really want to see this movie. I really want to see this movie, especially if the movie is going to be in English. I mean, but it's such a great story, I could watch the movie with subtitles. So that's pretty much all I got for now, guys. I'm on to the next one.